The galaxy was a dangerous place, but some worlds were worse than others. Most species came from garden planets where the sun was gentle and the rain was soft. They lived easy lives under calm skies. Then there were the standard worlds, places that were tough but manageable. But the worst planets of all were the Deathworlds. Deathworlds were nightmares. They had crushing gravity that would break bones. They had storms that could strip flesh from metal. They had predators that hunted in packs and poisons in the very air. Only the strongest species survived on Deathworlds, and those species were harder than steel. 7 of these species had formed an alliance. They called it the Deathworld Alliance, and everyone in the galaxy feared them. The Krathxi came from a world where volcanoes never stopped erupting, and gravity was 3 times normal. They stood 9 feet tall with armor-like skin and forearms that could bend metal bars. The Valorum came from a frozen hell where acid snow fell from purple skies. They moved like lightning, and their claws could cut through ship hulls. The Jihaikan came from jungle planets where everything wanted to kill you, and they had become the perfect hunters. These species and 4 others formed the military backbone of galactic civilization. When pirates attacked trade routes, the Alliance crushed them. When territorial disputes turned violent, the Alliance kept the peace. For 200 years, no one had dared to challenge them. That changed when the Harvester arrived. The first attack happened at Outpost Kelvin 7, a military station on the edge of Alliance space. The station housed 3,000 soldiers and had enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. It sent out a distress signal that lasted exactly 4 seconds. When Alliance ships arrived 6 hours later, they found nothing but debris. The entire station had been reduced to floating scrap metal. Commander Thexal of the Krathgi was assigned to investigate. He was a veteran of 40 years, covered in scars from a dozen wars. He had never seen anything like this. The debris field showed signs of weapons that shouldn't exist. Metal had been melted at temperatures that regular ship weapons couldn't reach. Armor plating had holes burned through it in perfectly straight lines. "What kind of weapon does this?" asked his second officer, a young Krathxi named Drevan. Thexal examined the data on his command screen. "I don't know, but whatever it is, it's hunting us." Over the next 3 weeks, the Harvester destroyed 4 more outposts and 2 patrol fleets. No one saw it coming. It appeared on sensors for only seconds before firing, then disappeared like a ghost. Alliance Command pulled together every report and tried to form a picture of their enemy. The ship was massive, nearly 2 kilometers long. Its hull was black and seemed to absorb sensor readings. Energy weapons bounced off its shields or were absorbed completely. Kinetic weapons, solid slugs of metal fired at incredible speeds, just melted before impact. The ship moved faster than anything its size should move. Worst of all, it seemed to know what Alliance ships would do before they did it. Alliance Command decided to set a trap. They would gather a large fleet and wait for the Harvester to attack another target. When it appeared, they would surround it and destroy it with overwhelming force. It was a good plan. It should have worked. They chose the median shipyards as bait. It was an important target that the Harvester couldn't ignore. Thexal commanded the fleet of 12 warships, the most powerful vessels the Alliance had. Each ship carried enough weapons to level a city. Each crew was made up of warriors from Deathworld species. They were ready. The Harvester arrived exactly as predicted. It came out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the shipyard's defensive perimeter. Thexal gave the order immediately. His fleet surrounded the enemy ship in a perfect formation. Every captain knew their role. They had drilled this maneuver 100 times. "All ships, open fire," Thexal roared. The space around the Harvester lit up with weapons fire. Energy beams that could cut through asteroids struck its shields. Missiles that could destroy mountains slammed into its hull. The combined firepower could have destroyed a small moon. The Harvester didn't even slow down. Its shields flashed but held. Then it began to move. The alien ship twisted in ways that shouldn't be possible. Its massive bulk dancing through space like a fighter craft. It fired back with weapons that defied understanding. Beams of purple light lanced out and touched Alliance ships. Where the beams hit, metal simply ceased to exist. Perfect holes appeared in hulls, cutting through armor, through bulkheads, through reactors. The warship Destiny's hammer exploded first. 3,000 Valorum died in an instant. The Claw of Justice lasted 10 seconds longer before a beam cut through its bridge. Thexal watched in horror as ship after ship died. His warriors fought with courage that would be sung about for generations, but courage meant nothing against this enemy. All ships scatter. Random evasion patterns. Thexal ordered, abandoning the plan. It didn't help. The harvester seemed to predict every move. When ships went left, it was already firing to the left. When they went right, the purple beams were waiting. It was like fighting an enemy that could see the future. Thexal's flagship, the Unbreakable Will, was hit 3 times. The first shot destroyed the port weapons array. The second shot cut through the engine room, killing 200 engineers. The third shot barely missed the bridge by 10 meters. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. The lights flickered as power systems failed. "Commander, we have to retreat," Dravan shouted over the noise. Thexal's pride wanted him to stay and fight. His training as a warrior demanded he face death with honor. But his duty as a commander required him to survive and report what he had learned. He made the hardest decision of his life. Jump to faster than light. Now. The Unbreakable Will limped away, barely making the jump before its engines failed completely. Behind them, the last of the fleet died. 11 warships destroyed in less than 6 minutes. Over 30,000 Alliance warriors dead. The Harvester didn't even have a scratch on its hull. When Thexal returned to Alliance Command, the Council chamber was silent as he gave his report. He stood before the 7 species leaders and told them the truth. "We cannot defeat this enemy with conventional tactics. It is faster, stronger, and smarter than us. It predicts our moves and counters them perfectly. I have fought for 40 years and I have never seen anything like it." The head of the council, an ancient Jaken named Shira, leaned forward. "Commander Thexal, you are our finest warrior. If you cannot defeat this ship, who can?" Thexal had no answer. The intelligence division worked day and night to learn more about their enemy. 3 days later they had answers, and those answers were terrifying. The Harvester was not alone. It was a scout ship from an empire called the Koralth Supremacy. Ancient records showed that the Koralth had ruled a quarter of the galaxy 5,000 years ago before they mysteriously disappeared. Everyone thought they were extinct. They were wrong. The Koralth had been sleeping, waiting. Now they were back, and the Harvester was testing galactic defenses. Intelligence estimated that dozens more ships like it were being prepared for a full invasion. The Alliance faced extinction. They had to find help, find new weapons, find something that could turn the tide. Alliance scouts spread throughout the galaxy, searching for anything that could help them survive. One scout ship found something interesting. It found a small yellow star with 8 planets. The third planet was covered in water and had 1 intelligent species. The planet wasn't on any of the major charts because its inhabitants had only just developed faster-than-light travel. The planet was called Earth, and its people called themselves humans. Commander Thexal stood in the landing bay of the human city called New York and tried not to show his disappointment. He had come to Earth with hope. The initial scans of this planet had been shocking. Earth was more dangerous than his homeworld. It was more dangerous than any Deathworld in the Alliance. Earth's gravity was stronger than most garden worlds. Its weather systems were violent and unpredictable. Storms could form in hours and destroy everything in their path. The planet had frozen poles and burning deserts. It had active volcanoes in zones where the very ground shook and split open. The oceans were filled with creatures that could swallow a Krathki whole. The land had predators with claws and teeth that had hunted for millions of years. Worst of all were the tiny killers. Earth had bacteria and viruses that had ended civilizations. It had insects that carried death in their bite. It had plants that could poison with a touch. Even the air had pollen that could kill if you were unlucky enough to be allergic. The humans had conquered all of it. They had risen from being prey to being the apex predator of their entire planet. They had built cities that held millions. They had created weapons that could destroy their whole world several times over. They had only achieved faster-than-light travel 15 years ago, but already they had colonies on 3 other planets in their system. This should have produced warriors to rival the Krathki. But the humans who greeted Thexal were small. They stood only 6 feet tall on average. They had soft skin with no natural armor. They had no claws, no fangs, no venom. They broke bones easily and took weeks to heal from injuries that a Krathki would recover from in days. They were physically weaker than every species in the Alliance. Thexal felt his hope dying. These creatures could not help them. The human diplomat who met him was a woman named Ambassador Liu. She was small even for a human, barely reaching Thexal's chest. She smiled and offered her hand in the human greeting gesture. Thexal took it carefully, afraid he might crush her fragile bones. "Welcome to Earth, Commander Thexal. We're honored to receive you. Thank you, Ambassador. I wish the circumstances were better. She led him through the human city. Thexel observed everything with a warrior's eye. The buildings were impressive but not particularly defensible. The humans walked around without weapons or armor. Children played in open areas where predators could strike. It was all so soft, so vulnerable. They arrived at a building called the United Earth Coalition headquarters. Inside, Thexel met with human leaders and military officers. He showed them the footage of the Harvester's attack. He explained the threat facing the galaxy. The humans watched in silence. When he finished, a human military officer spoke. Her name was Admiral Sarah Chen, and she commanded Earth's deep space fleet. Commander, you came here looking for warriors. You're disappointed because we look weak. Am I right? Thexel appreciated the directness. Yes, Admiral. I mean no offense, but my people have been warriors for thousands of years. Earth is a harsh world, but your species does not seem adapted for combat. Admiral Chen nodded. Let me show you something. She pulled up data on a large screen. This is human history. We've been fighting wars since before we had written language. We've fought each other over territory, over resources, over ideas. We've created weapons that could end all life on Earth, and we've come close to using them several times. The data scrolled past. Thexel saw images of human conflicts. Primitive humans hunting with stone tools. Ancient armies clashing with swords and shields. Modern wars with explosives and automatic weapons. The death counts were staggering. Humans had killed billions of their own species over the centuries. You see, Commander, we're not physically strong. We're not fast. We don't heal quickly. But we learned something that your species might not have needed to learn. We learned to outthink our enemies. We learned to use tools to create strategies to adapt to any situation. We learned to keep fighting even when we were hurt, even when we were scared, even when victory seemed impossible. Another human officer stepped forward. His name was General Martinez, and he looked old even by human standards. Commander, I've reviewed your battle footage a dozen times. Your ships fought bravely, but they fought predictably. You used standard military formations. You followed established tactical doctrine. The Harvester knew what you would do because you did exactly what any military force would do. Are you saying we fought poorly? Thexel felt his anger rising. No, you fought well. But you fought fair. Humans learned a long time ago that if you fight fair, you're doing it wrong. The human leaders debated for hours. Thexel listened as they argued about joining the war. Some said it was too dangerous. Earth had just reached the stars. They weren't ready for a galactic conflict. Others argued that hiding wasn't an option. If the Alliance fell, the Koralth supremacy would eventually find Earth. Admiral Chen made the final argument. We can't sit this out. If the Alliance loses, we lose. If we help them win, we gain allies across the galaxy. More than that, we prove that humanity belongs among the stars. I say we send a ship. The vote was close, but it passed. Earth would send one warship to join the Alliance fleet. The ship was called the UECS Indomitable, a heavy cruiser designed for long-term deep space combat. It wasn't the biggest ship in Earth's fleet, but it was the best. The Indomitable was commanded by Captain Marcus Webb, a veteran of Earth's colonial defense forces. Thexel met him at the ship's launch ceremony. Webb was tall for a human with gray hair and a face marked by old scars. Commander Thexel, I've read everything about the Harvester. My crew is ready to help however we can. Captain Webb, I appreciate your courage, but I must be honest. I do not think one human ship will make a difference. Webb smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who had heard that kind of doubt before. Commander, humans have been the underdog in every fight we've ever been in. We're used to it. Just watch and learn. The Indomitable traveled to Alliance space with a crew of 800 humans. They brought with them 20 military advisors who would work with Alliance forces. Thexel traveled with them, trying to understand these strange creatures. He watched them train. Human soldiers were disciplined but not rigid. They questioned orders if something seemed wrong. They made jokes even in serious situations. They formed close bonds with their squad members that went beyond simple military loyalty. It was also different from Alliance military culture. One day, Thexel asked Captain Webb about it. Your soldiers show insufficient respect for authority. In the Alliance, such behavior would be punished. Webb laughed. Commander, we've learned that blind obedience gets people killed. We want soldiers who can think, who can adapt when plans fall apart. Every human soldier is trained to take command if their superior dies. We don't just follow orders, we accomplish missions. But how do you maintain discipline? We maintain it by earning respect, not demanding it. A human soldier will follow an officer into hell if they trust that officer. But that trust has to be earned through competence and by caring about your people. The cultural differences became clear during joint training exercises. Alliance officers gave orders and expected immediate obedience. Human officers gave objectives and let their teams figure out how to accomplish them. Alliance warriors fought with honor and courage. Human soldiers fought to win, using any advantage they could find. During one simulation, a human squad defeated a Valorum strike team by setting a trap that violated 3 different rules of military engagement. The Valorum commander complained that the humans had cheated. The human lieutenant responded that there were no rules in real combat. Thexal started to understand. His people were warriors. Humans were survivors. There was a difference. Warriors fought with strength and honor. Survivors fought with intelligence and ruthlessness. Both had value, but in different ways. The Indomitable reached Alliance space after 2 weeks of travel. They arrived at the military station where the Alliance fleet was gathering. Thexal watched the reactions of other Alliance officers as the human ship docked. Some were curious. Some were dismissive. None of them truly understood what they were dealing with. Captain Webb met with Alliance Command and asked to see all available data on the Harvester. He and his crew spent days analyzing every battle, every scan, every piece of information they could find. The Alliance officers thought the humans were wasting time. Real warriors learned by fighting, not by studying. But Thexal was beginning to suspect that humans were very good at studying. Captain Marcus Webb sat in his quarters aboard the Indomitable and watched the battle footage for the 100th time. The screen showed Alliance ships dying. He watched the Harvester move, fire, adjust position, fire again. Every movement was precise. Every shot was perfect. It was like watching a computer play a game it had already won. Athena analysis, Webb said to the ship's artificial intelligence. The AI's voice filled the room. Captain, I have identified 17 distinct tactical patterns in the Harvester's combat behavior. All patterns conform to optimal military doctrine as established by the Galactic Military Academy. The Harvester responds to threats based on a prioritization algorithm that considers ship class, weapons range, and tactical position. In other words, it fights by the book. Correct, Captain. The Harvester's combat efficiency is extremely high because it executes perfect textbook maneuvers against opponents who also use textbook tactics. Webb smiled. So what happens if we throw out the book? The Harvester's response time would increase as it attempts to process non-standard tactics. However, this is theoretical. No military force has attempted truly random or irrational combat maneuvers against it. Time to change that. Webb called a meeting with his senior officers. His second-in-command was Commander Lisa Rodriguez, a woman who had fought in the Titan Rebellion and had earned 3 medals for tactical innovation. His weapons officer was Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka, who had written a paper on asymmetric warfare that had changed Earth's military doctrine. His chief engineer was Marcus O'Brien, who had kept ships running with spare parts and determination through 2 different wars. People, I think I know how to hurt this thing, Webb began. The Harvester fights like a chess grandmaster. Every move is optimal. Every response is calculated. It wins because it's playing perfect chess. So how do we beat a perfect chess player? Rodriguez asked. We stop playing chess. We flip the board. We throw the pieces at its head. We do things that make no tactical sense, and we keep doing them until it can't keep up. Tanaka nodded slowly. You want us to fight? Stupidly? Not stupidly. Unpredictably. Athena, show them the simulation I've been working on. The AI displayed a tactical scenario. It showed the Indomitable facing the Harvester. The human ship moved in erratic patterns, changed speed randomly, and fired weapons at targets that made no sense. The Harvester's response time in the simulation increased by 47%. It's not much, Webb admitted, but 47% slower might be the difference between dying and surviving. Over the next 3 weeks, Webb worked with Alliance Command to implement new training protocols. It was like teaching fish to walk. Alliance warriors had been trained for generations to fight with honor, discipline, and established tactics. Asking them to fight unpredictably went against everything they believed. Commander Thexal attended the training sessions. He watched human instructors teach Alliance crews to make random course changes. to fire at empty space, to fake damage that didn't exist, and to ignore tactical opportunities that were obviously traps. "This feels wrong," Thexel said during one session. "We are warriors. We fight with strength and strategy." A human instructor, a sergeant named Williams, responded, "Commander, respectfully, you fight like warriors. We fight like survivors. There's a difference. A warrior wants to win with honor. A survivor just wants to win. Are you saying we lack courage?" "No, sir. You have more courage than any human I've ever met. You face death without fear. But humans face death differently. We're scared all the time, so we learn to fight scared. We learned that honor doesn't matter if you're dead." Thexel wanted to argue, but he couldn't. The humans had a point. The Harvester didn't care about honor. It cared about efficiency. Maybe efficiency had to be fought with chaos. The chance to test the new tactics came sooner than expected. The Harvester attacked a supply convoy near the Argon system. Alliance Command decided to send a response team. 4 ships would go. 3 Alliance vessels using traditional tactics and the Indomitable using human methods. The mission objective was simple: survive and collect data. Captain Webb briefed his crew before the jump. "Listen up. We're not trying to win this fight. We're trying to learn. I want erratic maneuvers, random weapons fire, and anything else that will confuse the enemy. Make it think we're crazy. Make it hesitate. Every second it spends trying to figure us out is a second we stay alive." The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel and found the Harvester finishing off the last convoy ship. The alien vessel detected them immediately and turned to engage. The 3 Alliance ships formed a standard attack formation and advanced. The Indomitable did something different. The human ship jinked left, then right, then spun completely around for no reason. It fired its main weapons at empty space, then launched missiles at a debris field. Its acceleration pattern looked like random numbers from a computer. Every sensor reading was contradictory. The ship's transponder broadcast music instead of proper identification codes. The Harvester engaged the Alliance ships first because they followed predictable patterns. Its purple beams lanced out and touched each ship once. The Alliance vessels were ready and dodged, but the Harvester had already calculated their evasion patterns. 2 of the 3 ships took critical damage within the first minute. Then the Harvester turned its attention to the Indomitable. Webb watched the alien ship orient toward them. "Here it comes. Evasive pattern delta random." "Sir, there is no pattern delta random," Rodriguez said. "I know. Make one up." The Indomitable twisted through space like a drunk fighter trying to dodge a punch. The Harvester fired, but its beam went wide by 50 meters. It adjusted and fired again. This time the beam missed by 30 meters. The alien ship was still deadly accurate, but it was no longer perfect. "It's working," Tanaka shouted. "Harvester target acquisition time has increased to 43 seconds. Launch all missiles. Random trajectories. I want them flying in circles if possible." Dozens of missiles streaked away from the Indomitable. Most of them missed by kilometers, but that wasn't the point. The Harvester's defensive systems had to track each one, had to calculate each threat, had to waste processing power on targets that might or might not be dangerous. Emergency burn on all engines, then cut power completely for 5 seconds. "Sir, that will make us drift off course with no control," O'Brien protested. "Do it anyway." The Indomitable accelerated hard, then went dark. For 5 seconds it coasted through space, completely unpowered and unable to maneuver. It was a suicidal tactic. The Harvester fired at where the ship should have been, but the sudden deceleration meant the human ship was 30 kilometers away from the predicted position. The purple beam passed through empty space, power back up. "Jump to faster than light, now!" The Indomitable reactivated its systems and jumped away just as the Harvester fired again. The alien vessel's beam clipped their rear shields, causing minor damage. But they had survived. One of the Alliance ships managed to jump away as well. The other 2 were destroyed. Back at Alliance Command, Webb presented his data. The room was filled with officers from all 7 Deathworld species. They had watched the battle through remote sensors and they had many questions. "Captain Webb, you violated 16 tactical protocols during that engagement," one Valorum commander stated. "You endangered your ship with reckless maneuvers." "Yes, sir. And I survived. The 2 ships that followed proper protocols did not. You got lucky. Maybe. But I'd rather be lucky than dead." Commander Thexal stood up. The room went quiet. Everyone respected the old warrior. "I have fought for 40 years. I have studied warfare my entire life. Everything Captain Webb did in that battle was wrong according to our training. But he survived 47 seconds longer than our ships. That means his wrongness is more right than our rightness. Another commander, a Jacan named Kresh, spoke up. You are suggesting we abandon centuries of tactical doctrine? I am suggesting that our tactical doctrine is based on fighting honorable enemies who follow rules. The Harvester does not fight with honor. It fights with mathematics. Perhaps we need to fight with madness. The debate lasted for hours. Some Alliance officers refused to accept that human chaos could work. Others saw the potential. Finally, Shira, the council head, made a decision. Captain Webb will be given command of a joint task force. 5 Alliance ships and the Indomitable will train together using human tactical methods. If he can prove these methods work in a real battle, we will consider implementing them fleet-wide. Webb stood and nodded. Thank you. I won't let you down. As the meeting ended, Thexol approached Webb. Captain, I have a question. During the battle, you cut your engines while under fire. That was insane. Yes, it was, but you survived. How did you know it would work? Webb smiled. I didn't know. I just knew the Harvester wouldn't expect it. Sometimes, Commander, the best tactic is the one your enemy thinks you're too smart to try. Thexol processed this. Humans fought with controlled insanity. They did things that made no sense and somehow survived because of it. It was the most alien concept he had ever encountered, but he was beginning to think it might be the only way to win. Captain Webb stood in front of the holographic display and outlined the craziest plan anyone had ever heard. 20 Alliance commanders stared at him like he had lost his mind. Maybe he had. You want to lure the Harvester into the Xerion Nebula, Commander Thexol said slowly. The nebula where sensors don't work, where navigation is nearly impossible, where ships have been known to fly straight into asteroid fields because they couldn't see them. That's right. And then you want to ambush it with coordinated chaos, which is a contradiction in terms. Also correct. Captain Webb, this plan will get us all killed. Webb nodded. Probably. But doing nothing will definitely get us all killed. At least this way we might take the Harvester with us. A Valorum commander named Shaltir spoke up. Even if we agree to this madness, how do we lure it into the nebula? The Harvester is not foolish. It won't simply follow us into a trap. We make it think there's something valuable inside. The Indomitable will broadcast fake distress signals and encrypted messages suggesting we found a hidden Alliance base in the nebula. The Harvester has been intercepting our communications. It will investigate. And if it doesn't take the bait, then we try something else. But I think it will. The Harvester's mission is to find and destroy our military assets. It won't ignore what looks like a major base. The debate lasted for 2 days. Half the Alliance Council voted against the plan. They said it was too risky, too unpredictable, too human. But Admiral Chen had come from Earth to personally support Webb, and her arguments were persuasive. The Harvester has destroyed 43 Alliance ships, she told the Council. At this rate, your fleet will be gone in 6 months. You have 2 choices. Try something desperate or surrender. I know Deathworld species don't surrender, so try something desperate. The vote passed by 2 votes. 20 warships would participate. 19 Alliance vessels and the Indomitable. Thexol insisted on being part of the fleet. His ship, the Unbreakable Will, had been repaired and upgraded with some human technology. He wanted revenge for his lost crews. Webb divided the fleet into 5 groups of 4 ships each. Each group had a mix of Alliance and human-trained crews. Then he did something that shocked everyone. He gave each group completely different objectives. Group 1, your job is to draw fire and then run away. Group 2, you're going to hide behind asteroids and ambush from unexpected angles. Group 3, I want you to fly straight at the Harvester like you're going to ram it, then veer off at the last second. Group 4, just fly around randomly and shoot at anything that moves. Group 5, you're with me. We're going to do all of those things and more. Captain, these objectives contradict each other, a JCON commander protested. There is no overall strategy. That's the point. The Harvester analyzes our tactics and predicts our moves. If we have no strategy, it can't predict anything. We become random noise. We become chaos. The fleet spent a week practicing. It went poorly. Alliance ships collided with each other during maneuvers. Weapons fire came dangerously close to friendly vessels. Crews complained that they had no idea what they were doing. Webb told them that was perfect. If you don't know what you're doing, the enemy won't know either. Finally, they were ready. The fleet moved toward the Xerion Nebula. The Indomitable went in first, broadcasting its fake distress signal. Mayday, mayday. This is the UECS Indomitable. We have discovered an Alliance command base in the nebula. Coordinates attached. We are under attack from automated defenses. Require immediate assistance. The message was encrypted with a code that the Harvester had already broken in previous battles. Webb wanted the enemy to intercept it. He wanted them to think they were being clever. 2 days later, the Harvester arrived. It entered the nebula carefully, its sensors straining to pierce the interference. The Indomitable was broadcasting a weak transponder signal from deep inside the nebula. The alien ship followed. "It's coming," Rodriguez said from her station. "Harvester is 200,000 kilometers out and closing. All ships activate the plan. Remember, there is no plan. Do what feels wrong." The Alliance crews had been nervous, but now that the battle was starting, their warrior instincts took over. They might not understand human tactics, but they knew how to fight. The Harvester penetrated deeper into the nebula. Visibility was almost zero. Its sensors picked up the Indomitable and multiple other contacts. The readings made no sense. Ships appeared and disappeared. Power signatures flickered randomly. Some vessels seemed to be flying in circles. The first attack came from Group 2. A Krathgai heavy cruiser emerged from behind an asteroid and fired a full broadside at point-blank range. The Harvester's shields absorbed the damage. But the attack had come from an angle its tactical systems rated as 0% probability. That should have been impossible. The Harvester rotated to engage, but Group 1 ships suddenly appeared and started firing from maximum range. Their shots went wide, but the Harvester had to classify them as threats. Then Group 3 ships came screaming in from above, diving at suicide speeds. The alien vessel calculated intercept courses and prepared to fire. At the last second, all 4 Group 3 ships veered away. They had never intended to ram. It was a fake. The Harvester had wasted 3 seconds tracking targets that weren't real threats. 3 seconds doesn't sound like much, but in combat 3 seconds is a lifetime. Group 4 lived up to their assignment. They flew through the nebula like drunken pilots, firing at everything. One ship shot at an asteroid. Another launched missiles at empty space. A third somehow managed to fire on its own deployed sensor buoys. It looked completely incompetent. The Harvester's artificial intelligence struggled. It was designed to fight military vessels using standard tactics. This was not standard. This was chaos. Its processing systems tried to find patterns in the chaos and couldn't. Every predictive algorithm failed. Every tactical assessment came back with error messages. Webb watched from the Indomitable as the Harvester started making mistakes. Small ones at first. It targeted the wrong ship. It fired half a second too late. It turned left when right would have been more efficient. The perfect chess player was starting to blunder. "Now comes the fun part," Webb said. "All ships begin Phase 2. Phase 2 had no plan at all. Each captain was told to do whatever they thought would be most confusing. The results were beautiful madness. A Valorum ship fired its weapons, then immediately jumped to faster than light for 3 seconds before dropping back into normal space 100 kilometers away. A Jakin vessel deliberately damaged its own engines and vented atmosphere, making it look crippled, then fired a full weapons spread when the Harvester approached. Thexal's ship broadcast human music at maximum volume on all frequencies. "The Harvester is compensating," Tanaka reported. "It's adapting to our tactics." "Of course it is. Time for Phase 3. Sir, there is no Phase 3, I know. Make something up." The Indomitable did something completely insane. It charged straight at the Harvester at full speed. The alien ship calculated a 99% probability of a ramming attack and prepared to evade. At the last second, the Indomitable ejected its entire cargo bay. Containers of supplies, spare parts, and 3 shuttles exploded outward in a cloud of debris. The Harvester's point defense systems went crazy trying to shoot down all the objects. In that moment of distraction, the Indomitable reversed thrust and dropped behind the debris field. 5 other Alliance ships opened fire from different angles. The Harvester took damage. Not much, but some. Its shields flickered. A small burn appeared on its hull. It was the first time anyone had successfully hurt it. The alien ship realized it was in danger and started to retreat. Webb had expected this. Group 5 blocked its exit vector. Everyone else herded toward Section 7 of the nebula. Section 7 had the highest concentration of asteroids and the worst sensor interference. The Harvester tried to break through the surrounding ships, but every time it turned, more ships appeared from the nebula's interference. It was being driven like cattle into a pen. Thexol saw the opportunity. The Harvester was so focused on the ships around it that it had forgotten to watch its ventral hull. Basic tactics said you never expose your underside in combat, but the Harvester's AI had been so overwhelmed with data that it had made a fundamental mistake. All weapons, target the ventral hull, Section 6, fire everything. The Unbreakable will unleash 40 years of accumulated rage. Every weapon fired at once. Energy beams, missiles, kinetic rounds, even the old chemical rockets that most ships no longer used. It was the concentrated firepower of a ship designed to survive Deathworld conflicts. The Harvester's ventral shields were designed to withstand normal attacks. This was not normal. This was excessive, brutal, and completely unnecessary by any tactical standard. It was perfect. The shields collapsed. The beams cut through the hull. Explosions rippled across the alien ship's surface. Secondary detonations suggested critical systems had been hit. All ships concentrate fire on the breach. Webb ordered. 20 ships poured fire into the wound. The Harvester tried to maneuver away, but its engines were damaged. It fired back, destroying 2 Alliance ships, but its aim was off. More and more damage accumulated. Finally, after 17 minutes of continuous combat, the Harvester's reactor went critical. The news reached Earth 3 days after the victory in the Xerian Nebula. The footage of the battle played on every screen across the planet. Humans watched as the Indomitable fought alongside alien warships. They saw the impossible victory. They saw the explosion of the Harvester. Then they saw the sensor data showing 47 more enemy ships entering Alliance space. Public opinion shifted overnight. Before the battle, many humans had argued that the Galactic War wasn't their problem. Earth was young on the galactic stage. They should focus on their own survival. But something about seeing humans fighting beside aliens changed people's minds. A video went viral. It showed Commander Thexol and Captain Webb standing on the bridge of the Unbreakable Will after the battle. The massive Krathsi warrior placed one of his 4 hands on the human's shoulder. "Captain Webb, I have misjudged your species. You are small and soft, but you fight with the ferocity of a true Deathworld warrior." Webb smiled tiredly. "Commander, we're not warriors. We're just stubborn. We don't know when to quit." "Then I am grateful for your stubbornness. You saved my life today. You would have done the same for me." That simple exchange of respect between 2 completely different species touched something deep in human nature. Humans had always been tribal, always divided into groups that competed with each other. But when faced with an outside threat, those divisions meant nothing. The Koralth supremacy was everyone's enemy. That made the Alliance everyone's friend. The United Earth Coalition held an emergency session. The debate lasted 8 hours. Finally, Admiral Chen addressed the council. "We've been a spacefaring species for 15 years. We're new. We're inexperienced. We're scared. But the Alliance needs us, and if we're being honest, we need them too. If the Koralth supremacy wins, they'll find Earth eventually. We can fight now with allies or fight later alone. I know which option I prefer." The vote was unanimous. Earth committed to total war. Every resource, every factory, every military asset would be mobilized. The United Earth Coalition sent a message to Alliance Command. "You have our full support. Tell us what you need." Alliance Command needed everything. They needed ships, weapons, supplies, and most of all, they needed the human way of thinking. Earth's industrial capacity, which had built colonies and space stations, was redirected to military production. Orbital shipyards that had been building cargo vessels started building warships. Factories that made civilian electronics started making military sensors. Humans were very good at mass production. They had learned during their own wars that whoever could build more faster usually won. Within 2 months, Earth was launching 1 new warship every week. They weren't as big as Alliance dreadnoughts, but they were fast, tough, and built to human specifications. More importantly, Earth sent people. Military advisors spread throughout the Alliance fleet, teaching the new tactics. Scientists shared weapons research that humans had developed. Engineers showed alien crews how to repair ships using improvised methods. Psychologists helped Alliance soldiers cope with the trauma of losing so many comrades. Captain Webb was promoted to Commodore and given command of a joint task force. His fleet had 30 ships, 15 human, 15 Alliance. They represented a new way of fighting, a blend of human unpredictability and Alliance strength. The first test came quickly. A Koralth fleet attacked the colony world of Praxis the Thrur. 5 Harvester-class ships supported by 20 smaller vessels. Standard Alliance doctrine said you needed at least a 3-to-1 advantage to win. Webb had 30 ships against 25. The odds were almost even. We can't win this by numbers, Webb told his commanders. We win by being impossible to predict. The battle lasted 3 hours. Webb's fleet used every trick from the Xerion Nebula and invented new ones. Human ships pretended to be disabled, then ambushed pursuers. Alliance ships fired at coordinates that Webb calculated using dice rolls. One captain even rammed a harvester's shield at an angle that caused both ships to spin uncontrollably through space. It was ugly, brutal, and it worked. Webb's fleet destroyed 3 harvesters and drove off the rest. They lost 8 ships, but they saved the colony. 2 million civilians survived because of that victory. News of the win spread through the Alliance. More importantly, news of the method spread. Captains who had been skeptical started asking for human advisors. Crews who had resisted the new training started embracing it. The humans had proven that their madness was effective, but the war was far from over. Intelligence reports suggested the Kor'alth supremacy had hundreds of warships. They were coordinating their attacks, learning from each battle. The Alliance was holding, but barely. They needed something more. Admiral Chen arrived at Alliance Command with a proposal. We need to take the fight to them. We've been defending, reacting to their moves. It's time to attack. The Alliance Council was shocked. Admiral, we are outnumbered and outgunned. Attacking is suicide. Maybe. But humans have a saying, the best defense is a good offense. We need to find their staging areas, their supply lines, their command ships. We need to make them react to us for a change. Commander Thexel supported the plan. He had learned to trust human instincts. The Admiral is correct. We cannot win by defending forever. We must become the hunters instead of the prey. The Council approved the creation of strike teams, small, fast groups of ships that would raid enemy positions and retreat before reinforcements arrived. It was guerrilla warfare adapted for space combat. Humans had invented guerrilla warfare thousands of years ago. They were very good at it. Over the next 6 months, the war settled into a brutal pattern. The Kor'alth supremacy attacked major targets with overwhelming force. The Alliance defended with human tactics and clever traps. Human strike teams raided enemy supply convoys and logistics bases. Both sides took heavy losses, but the momentum had shifted. The Kor'alth weren't winning anymore. They were just fighting. A turning point came at the Battle of Kelvin Station, the same station where the Harvester had first appeared. The Kor'alth sent 10 harvesters to destroy the rebuilt station. Webb's fleet had only 20 ships available to defend it. The battle should have been a disaster. But Webb had learned something about the Harvester-class ships. They were controlled by artificial intelligence that followed logical patterns. No matter how much chaos you threw at them, they eventually adapted. The key was to keep introducing new chaos faster than they could adapt. Webb had his fleet do something unprecedented. He divided it into 20 individual ships and told each captain to invent their own tactics on the spot. No coordination, no plan, just pure creativity. The results were spectacular. One human captain flew his ship backwards while firing forward. An Alliance captain turned off all his ship systems and drifted like a dead hulk, then reactivated everything and fired at point-blank range. A Valorum captain somehow managed to use his ship's gravity generators to throw asteroids at the enemy. The Harvesters couldn't adapt fast enough. Every time they started to predict one ship's behavior, that ship did something completely different. It was like fighting 20 separate opponents who were all insane. 3 Harvesters were destroyed. The rest retreated. After the battle, Thexal found Webb in the medical bay. The human had been injured when a console exploded near him. His left arm was bandaged and he had burns on his face, but he was smiling. We won, Commander? Yes, we won. But at what cost? We lost 5 ships today. That's 500 brave warriors dead. Webb's smile faded. I know, I write letters to their families. Every single one. It's the hardest part of command. How do you bear it? How do you keep fighting knowing that your decisions will kill people? Because if I don't make those decisions, more people die. That's the burden of command. You carry the weight of every life lost and you keep going anyway. Thexal understood. This was why humans were so dangerous. They felt the pain of loss deeply, but they didn't let it stop them. They mourned their dead and kept fighting. It was the most human thing possible, to be hurt and keep going anyway. The war continued for another year. Slowly, painfully, the Alliance pushed back. Earth's production kept increasing. More human ships joined the fight. More Alliance crews learned human tactics. The Koralth supremacy, which had expected an easy victory, found themselves in a grinding war of attrition. The final major battle happened at the edge of Koralth space. A massive Alliance fleet supported by Earth's entire deep space navy attacked the enemy's main shipyards. It was the largest space battle in galactic history. 300 ships on each side clashed in a battle that lasted 12 hours. Webb commanded the human fleet. Thexal commanded the Alliance fleet. They fought side by side, their ships moving in patterns that no military academy would ever teach. The Koralth fought back with discipline and power, but they couldn't match the combined chaos and strength of their enemies. The shipyards were destroyed. The Koralth fleet broke and retreated into their own territory. They weren't defeated, but they were hurt badly enough that they offered negotiations. The war wasn't over, but the invasion was stopped. 6 months later, a ceremony was held on Earth. The Deathworld Alliance was officially reformed as the Coalition of Free Worlds, and Earth was a founding member.